know I came through with the fuego. You know I came through. Hey, you know I came through. You know I came through with the fuego. You know I came through. Hey, you know I came through. Nowadays I cannot lay low. I cannot lay low.
So welcome to our practical research 2 subject. For today's video, we will be discussing the minimum essential learning competencies of the subject. So here is the list of MELC for our subject. So we have 5 columns here. On the first column, the quarter is written. So we are now in the first quarter. Under the second column, the content standard is written. So the learners demonstrate understanding of the following topics. So on the content standard, specifically the main topics are written. Next column is the performance standard. The learners should be able to. So under the performance standard, these are the things you sh- that you should be doing, or the things that you can do uh, after the minimum essential learning was discussed or being studied. So next column is the most essential learning competency. So specifically, these are the subtopics of the main topics. And then next is the duration. So under the duration, the specific time frame is given on how long we should be discussing the most essential learning competencies, or MELC. Okay, so let's start. So for the week 1 to 3, the first content standard is, so the learners demonstrate understanding of the characteristics, strengths, weakness, and kinds of quantitative research. So for that week, the performance standard is, the learner should be able to decide on suitable quantitative research in different areas of interest. So for our MELC for that week, describes characteristics, strengths, weaknesses, and kinds of quantitative research. Okay, so for the next content standard, the importance of quantitative research across fields and the nature of variables. So we still have the same performance standard for week 1 to week 3. So for our MELC, illustrates the importance of quantitative research across fields. Okay, and differentiates kinds of variables and their uses. Next, for week 4 to 5, this is our content standard. The range of research topics in the area of inquiry. Then for our performance standards for week 4 to 5, formulate clearly the statement of research problem. This is our MELC for week 4 to 5. Designs a research used in daily life. And writes a research title. Okay, so including in our content standards for week 4 to 5, the specificity and feasibility of the problem posed. So we still have the same performance standard for that week until week 4 to 5. So for our MELC describes background of research. The next states research questions. And then next, indicates scope and delimitation of the study. And then last is presents written statement of the problem. So we are now on week 6 to 7. This is our content standards. The formulation of conceptual framework. Then number 2, the research hypothesis. So if appropriate. For our performance standard, formulate clearly conceptual framework, research hypothesis, if appropriate, and define terms used in research. Then next, present objectively written review of related literature and conceptual framework. So this is our MELC for week 6 to 7. Number 1, illustrates and explain the conceptual framework. Next is defines terms used in the study. Next is list research hypothesis, again, if appropriate. Then the last one is presents written review of related literature and conceptual framework. Okay? So, after that, we will have our midterm. So, after the midterm, we will have the second quarter. So, for the week 1 to 3 of our second quarter, the first content standard is quantitative research design. Number 2, description of sample. Number 3, instrument development. Number 4, description of intervention if applicable. Then next is data collection and analysis procedures such as survey, interview, and observation. Then number 6, guidelines in writing research methodology. So, for our performance standard, describe adequately quantitative research design, sample, instrument use, intervention, if applicable, data collection, and analysis procedures. These are our learning competency for week 1 to 3 in the second quarter. First one is choose appropriate quantitative research design, describes sampling procedure and sample. Next is constructs an instrument and establishes its validity and reliability. Then next is describes intervention, if applicable. Then plans data collection procedure. Okay, we have still 2 MELC for week 1 to 3. And that is plans data analysis using statistics and hypothesis testing, if appropriate. Presents written research methodology. Okay. So, next is for our week 4 to 7, this is our content standard. Data collection procedures and skills using varied instruments. The number 2, data processing, organizing, and analysis. For our performance standard, gather and analyze with intellectual honesty using suitable techniques. The number 1, form logical conclusions, then make recommendations based on conclusions. So that is for our week 4 to 7. And these are the learning competencies. Collects data using appropriate instruments. Then presents and interprets data in tabular or graphical forms. Then last one, uses statistical techniques to analyze study of differences and relationship limited for by rate analysis. Okay. Next is for our last week for quarter 2, so week 8 to 9. The content standard is guidelines in making conclusions and recommendations. Then we still have the same performance standard. And then this is our learning competency, draws conclusion from research findings, and formulates recommendations. So that is our last learning competency. So what is practical research 2 all about? So this subject class will make you ready, will help you to be ready for your III subject on the second sem. So also, since the whole process of research writing or thesis writing is discussed in this subject. So this also help you to be ready for your thesis writing in college. So what are the things that you need for you to be able to pass the subject? So you have to practice your English. So specifically in writing. So now, since the class is not yet started, so you can do something for you to be ready for this subject. So you try to write something, an essay, or just a diary that is written in English. So you can practice your writing, the technicalities of the language.